coming and sitting. I know. Mic calmly. Hello, can you hear me? Thank you all for coming. I know it is lunchtime, so we will try not to keep you in for too long. But today I am here discussing, जो हमारे panel में तीनों लोग, they've written political biographies. Uday Mahurkar ji ने लिखा है on Veer Savarkar. He's written on Prime Minister Modi. Sankarshan, of course, you know, we were just discussing his books on Lalu and Nitish Kumar, the brothers Bihari. And Rasheed Kidwai has written a whole lot of books, but his latest book, he's written on Congress, 24 Akbar Road. He's written on Sonia Gandhi. His latest, of course, is a collection of political obituaries. So there are profiles of people with a lot of anecdotes and interesting, you know, people who made difference to India. So my पहला सवाल है उदय आपसे, you've written a book on Veer Savarkar, but whoever you write on, is there a problem that you have कि आप क्या लिख सकते हैं? Because you have to tell the truth, but then there is also, you know, a problem because the figure is a public. So what do you tell, what do you don't tell? Do you sometimes feel that, you know, there's a tussle between your integrity and telling the people what they need to know?
I request audience to please come forward.
I think when you're writing a book on a person whom you broadly admire, there is always an issue of integrity, issue as to how far you should be critical, how far you should be praising him, you know. And this I faced in all the 3 books I wrote. My 2 books are on Mr. Modi's governance. The first one is Center Stage, Inside the Narendra Modi Model of Governance, on his 13 years in Gujarat. And the second one is Marching with a Villain, on his 3 years as Prime Minister. And my third book was released last year. It is on Veer Savarkar, the man who could have prevented partition. Mr. Modi I have covered for the last 35 years and of course as Chief Minister after 2001. So I never thought of writing a biography. Basically it's a biography to do with his work as an administrator, you know. So it's a part biography in that sense. So when Millie Aishwarya, the publisher of Penguin, she came to me and told me that you're the best possible person to write a book on his governance, as to what he has done for Gujarat, where he has faltered, you know. So I took about 2 days to reply. One was because it was in 2013 end when, you know, elections were due. I was in charge of India Today in Gujarat, and my inputs were very necessary for every story to be done on the Prime Minister, you know. One who was going to become Prime Minister. So I said no. After 2 days, she again approached me and tried to convince me. I again took about 2 days, and then I called up Mr. Modi himself. The reason was that I could not have done this book without talking to him. A book on his governance, I knew a lot of it, you know, but then I thought I can't do this book. This was my first book also. So I called him up and told him, I've got this offer, and usually I should not be calling you to seek your opinion. But I think that since I'll be wanting to have inputs from you, let me tell you that this is not a hagiography. This is a book by Penguin, which will have enough critical element, you know. And he was very understanding. He said, look here, no good publisher can publish a hagiography, I understand. If it's a good opportunity for you, you can go ahead, and whatever help you need, I will give. But what really surprised me was that he never tried to hint that he would like to know as to what I have written. So it was very good for me, a good experience of the current Prime Minister, where I thought that because the impression which people carry is that, you know, everything in whatever happens around is done only with his consent, you know. But in this case, he was, I think, very open in that sense, you know. So after that, I'll just take 1 more minute. After that, this was that, because I have been an admirer of his governance, you know. So I really worked hard on finding areas where probably he could have done better, he had not done well. And I wrote about that. It was a book in praise of his administrative skills, but there was enough criticism, you know. And Raj Chingappa, my editor, when I came to Delhi after that, when I read this book, he was pleasantly surprised. And he told my editor-in-chief, Arun Puri, ki, Uday has done a very good job. And I could never think that he could be so critical on certain issues, you know. So it's a challenge. Writing, same thing happened when I wrote about Savarkar. I have been an admirer of Savarkar, but I was very clear, me and my co-author, that we will do a good job on Savarkar wherever he has suffered. According to our judgment and values, we must write about it. And we did so. Thank you.
थैंक यू उदय बट संकर्षण ये कॉन्वर्सेशन आपने पहले भी किया था अपने सेशन में कि दिस होल थिन लाइन बिटवीन यू नो जो सच है द ऑब्जेक्टिव थिंग कीपिंग योर इंटेग्रिटी एंड ऑल्सो यू नो यू कैनॉट ऑल्सो यू नो यू हैव योर सोर्सेज पीपल स्पेशली पीपल हु आर अलाइव सो आप उनके बारे में बिल्कुल टू व्हाट एक्सटेंट कैन यू से विदाउट यू नो
You know, something, you reminded me of a line in the Brothers Bihari when I was closing the two biographies together was, there is, you know, writing about people who are living, whose careers are still unfolding. I mean, the challenge and the charm are, you know, woven into. So I remember a line saying, sooner or later, both these men will become either greater or lesser. To my mind, I think the man who I wrote a more understanding biography of, because of the work he had done from 2005, has become lesser to me. And the man who I had completely demolished has actually turned out a politician in a whole lot of ways. Now, you know, one of the problems I think we do in terms of judging politicians is that we judge them only by one yardstick. I think people have facets, people have nuances to them, people have, they should be judged. Sometimes even as a journalist, I think we overjudge people. We are unkind to them. Partly it's the job. But they have facets and sides to their personality, to their public work, which need examining. I don't think we should just damn people from, and that's what biographies should do, because you have the space and is to get a more complete sense of a person.
Fair enough, but you know, Rasheed, I remember, I think either Farooq Abdullah, Omar Abdullah, someone asked them कि आप अपनी, I think Farooq को बोला, Farooq साहब को, आप क्यों नहीं लिखते हैं अपनी biography? तो he says, अभी नहीं, after I die, क्योंकि मैं सच नहीं बता सकता हूँ. तो यही problem होता है कि सच किस हद तक आप तो we are journalists, we can tell, but how truthful do you find your sources? या कोई instances होते हैं जो आप सोचते हैं अभी नहीं, जो उनके मरने के बाद लिख सकते हैं, पर अभी let's not, you know, write these things.
Thank you, Priya. I think writing a biography in some ways is far more difficult than, you know, politicians writing their autobiographies, because in the autobiography or memoirs, they have a license to lie. They can take a lot of creative liberty, and then end of the day, we read them and we say, well, वो उन्होंने ही लिखा होगा तो सच होगा. But that's not a thing. Many politicians, when they write their memoirs, they become very extravagant with truth, and they take a lot of creative liberty. Biographers don't have that kind of luxury. There are a lot of ethical questions come in, and writing about living politicians in India is never an easy thing, because whatever good you write about them, you know, they like it. They say that this is a stated thing that you have written, but anything adverse, they take it very personally, and they don't like it. And there is a whole question of access. Most politicians, you know, are not very forthcoming with reference material or things that should be there in public domain. I have written about a number of personalities, and I have faced a lot of problems. I just want to tell one thing, that if anybody is politically inclined or politically ambitious and all, such people should actually refrain from writing biographies, because you know, the political masters are not going to like it. One day, actually, when I wrote a book on Sonia Gandhi, and later on it was being made into a film, and there was some legal problem, and you know, I received the legal notice the first chance, not the publisher, not anyone else. So then I went and met Mr. Rajiv Shukla, who's a journalist come politician, and he told me something very good anecdote. He said, when Rajiv Gandhi died, so he thought of, actually Penguin approached him to write a biography of Rajiv Gandhi. So he was all set and he thought he will do a good thing. So he went to meet Madhav Sindhia, who was a kind of political mentor. So Madhav said that, no, don't write. So he was very surprised. He said, why are you saying it? He said, देखो राजीव गांधी के बारे में तुम लिख रहे हो, राजीव गांधी अब दुनिया में नहीं है, लेकिन जो लोग जिंदा हैं वो तुम्हें जीने नहीं देंगे, माफ नहीं करेंगे, और तुम्हें राजनीति में रुचि है, तुम राजनीति में आना चाहते हो तो ये काम मत करो. तो ये सेड कि उन्होंने जाके वो अभी सरकार को रिग्रेट कर दिया और वो किताब नहीं लिखी. तो ये किताब जो लिखना जो होता है वो काफ़ी चैलेंजिंग बात होता है. एक राजनीतिक का जो एक लिविंग पॉलिटिकल पर्सनालिटी होता है उसका मूल्यांकन करना बहुत मुश्किल होता है. हमारे देश में उस तरह की ट्रेडिशन नहीं है, लेकिन ठाकुर साहब ने लिखा है, उदय जी ने लिखा है और भी बहुत से लोग लिख रहे हैं. और मुझे लगता है कि ये लिखने का काम जारी रहना चाहिए, क्योंकि लोकतंत्र में, एक स्वस्थ लोकतंत्र में बहुत ज़रूरी है कि हम अपने जनप्रतिनिधियों को और अपने जो राजनेताओं को हों अच्छी तरह से समझें, उनके गुण अवगुण उसकी व्याख्या होनी चाहिए. धन्यवाद.
Just wanted to add one thing to what Rasheed was saying, is that in my experience and in the part of the country that I come from, which is Bihar, and my two biography subjects, they have not left behind a single written word. कभी पत्राचार होता है, कोई documentation होता है, कोई, so apart from assembly records of Bihar government, जिसमें हर दो लाइन के बाद वो हल्ला हो गया, there's nothing, most of these remarks are redacted. And the same incident in, say, Lalu's life, who promoted him? The story is Nitish promoted him, because he was his sort of power behind the throne, कि ये public भाषण करेगा, राज मैं चलाऊंगा, I am the better administrator. Nitish, when he became chief, completely denies it. मेरा कोई role ही नहीं है. The same incident of who sat in the back room taking the numbers, क्योंकि वो चंद्रशेखर चाहते थे कि ये बन जाए, उनका एक और कैंडिडेट था बिहार में मुख्यमंत्री बनने का, याद नहीं आ रहा मुझे. Anyway, this battle was going on, and so Nitish was sitting and calculating इतने MLA हमारे पास हैं. Nitish completely denies it. 9 people tell me Nitish was there. How do you write such things? You have to then rely on someone. Nobody is willing to go on court. Yeah, that's a huge problem. And you're not writing a piece in a newspaper. You're writing a whole book. And the challenge becomes, how do I flesh out these people's lives? And and you meet one person who has one memory, दूसरे की memory, it has got politically corrected. Because circumstances have changed, so his memory has also changed.
That's the phrase. In fact, I was going to come to that point कि जब आप political biography लिखते हैं, आप सीधी chronology नहीं लिखते हैं. You have to put it in a perspective. It's not just he was born and he died or he did this. There is a context and a perspective. But Uday ji, I want to ask you, there is approaching a subject. Now, you had the most difficult subject, Narendra Modi, and at a time who is very conscious about his image. शायद आपके साथ उनका equation है, but did you at any time have any problems of ये नहीं लिखूंगा तो ये image का problem है, or any of his advisors approached you?
No. I think there's one officer, he is now retired. He was told that he wants to do a book on my governance. Just brief him. I had just one meeting with that fellow. I had covered him in great detail. So, as it is, I was an expert on that subject, So, he just helped me draw a structure, as to which are the focus areas. But there are many focus areas. For example, the one story which I sometimes say about his governance, which it's not there in my book. I personally feel that it should have been there, He came out with a program called Nirmal Gujarat. It was like Swachh Bharat. उसमें there's one direction in that कि ये जो पुरानी ऑफिसेज होती हैं सरकार की, जुडिशरी की, यहाँ टीन टपर पड़ा रहता है. आप जाओगे तो लॉबी के अंदर कोने में टेबल पड़ा रहता है, बॉक्सेस पड़े रहते हैं, वो पड़े रहते हैं वो सालों साल. तो एक ऑर्डर इन्होंने ये निकाला, आई एम श्योर इट वाज हिज डायरेक्शन ओनली, दैट इसका टेंडर निकालो और जितना वेस्ट है उसको बेच दो. तो जब टेंडर का बेचा तो पूरी उसकी जो फिगर है आप सोच के वो हो जाओगे, 125 करोड़. हाँ, वेस्ट मटेरियल लाइंग इन द लॉबीज ऑफ वेरियस ऑफिसेस, ओल्ड ऑफिसेस, उसको जब बेचा टेंडर घेतलं तो 125 करोड़ रुपये सरकार के आए. Now this is not there in my book.
Why?
I just missed it, there are so many things to cover. So you have to really prioritize, and sometimes you do feel after writing the book that you have missed a certain point which should have been there. And there are small little things. For example, one thing which I really liked writing, I mean, one that you have got this from a publisher that you will write a book on this subject, that is one. But then you have to work on it, And certain parts you really relish, For example, there is one Kankaria lake front in Gujarat. I think Mr. Modi went to some country and then he saw this lake front and then he came and called the commissioner, who was my good friend, Ki, bhai, I want this front, but this kind of front, we've already got a lake. Kankaria lake was a very big lake. It's there for 500 years, from the Sultanate period. So I want this to be a good lake front of international class, but according to Indian conditions. He said, first you do a study कि कौन से देश में ऐसा लेक फ्रंट है जो कम खर्चे में हो जाए अपने लिए. तो ये लोग जकार्ता गए और जकार्ता वाला इन्होंने मॉडल सिलेक्ट किया. अब वो पूरा गोल्ड लेक है, पहले से था ही वो, उसके अगल बगल में सब ये वेंडर्स खड़े रहते थे. तो वेंडर्स हैड टू वैकेट, है ना, क्योंकि वो तो फिर सरकार ने इसको डेवलप करना है. सो वेंडर्स वर कॉल्ड बाय द कमिश्नर एंड टोल्ड कि लुक हियर, वी डोंट वांट टू इजेक्ट यू आउट ऑफ दिस प्लेस, हम आपको अंदर जगह देंगे, हाँ, लेकिन आपको एक हाइजीनिक खाना देना पड़ेगा. तो हम आपको 4 महीने का कोर्स करवाएंगे होटल मैनेजमेंट इंस्टीट्यूट के पास में, जहाँ आपको बताया जाएगा कैसे ग्लव्स पहन के खाना सर्व करना, कैसे हाइजीन मेंटेन करना. और फिर हमको अंदर आपको स्टॉल लगाने के लिए हम आपके पास से 1 लाख रुपए लेंगे और एक कम इंटरेस्ट पे उसको आप, उसकी अवधि थी उसमें आपको वापस करना है. तो एक करीब 250 या 300 लोग थे, तो एक रिवॉल्ट टाइप का हो गया कि साहब हमारा ले रहे हो आप, इसमें आप ज़्यादा कमाओगे, इतने याद रखना. एंड ही वॉज फर्म ऑन दैट. 1 लाख रुपए लेके सबको जगह मिली एंड दे आर अर्निंग मच मोर देन व्हाट दे वर अर्निंग अर्लियर. So this is one thing which depicts 2 things, which I liked about. One, the inclusive nature of his vision to some extent, and 2, that he did not budge. मतलब this freebies वाला मामला है, उसमें in this case he did not budge. He could have, So that was one part which I liked. Small thing, small part of the book, I really liked it.
प्रिया, सॉरी 1 मिनट, मैं हमारे जो सूत्रधार हैं, जो हमारी एंकर हैं प्रिया सहगल, इनका भी मैं, इन्होंने हमारा परिचय दिया, इनका परिचय भी मैं दे दूँ. ये भी बहुत अच्छी लेखिका हैं और इन्होंने किताब लिखी है द कंटेंडर्स करके, जिसमें तमाम जो युवा नेता हैं देश के तमाम राजनीतिक दलों से, उसमें ज्योतिरादित्य सिंधिया, सचिन पायलट, उमर अब्दुल्ला, ऐसे बहुत सारे नेताओं का इन्होंने जिक्र किया है. तो मैं एक, अगर प्रिया की अनुमति से, मैं एक आपसे प्रश्न करना चाहता हूँ, जो हम सब बायोग्राफी लिखने वालों को होता है कि मैंने उस किताब को देखा, किताब बहुत अच्छी है, लेकिन आपने उनकी निजी जिंदगी का उल्लेख नहीं किया. तो क्या एक लेखक को, जो एक बायोग्राफर होता है, उसको ये हक होता है या उसको जानना चाहिए कि, क्योंकि कई बार निजी जिंदगी जो है वो इंसान के जीवन पे, चाहे हम एडोल्फ हिटलर की बात करें या महात्मा गांधी की बात करें, सबके निजी जिंदगी का बहुत असर पड़ता है. क्यों निजी जिंदगी में निष्ठा के जो मामले होते हैं, प्राइवेसी की, वो कितनी दूर तक जाना चाहिए, क्या जाना चाहिए, इस पर आपका क्या मत है?
इट्स अ वेरी गुड सवाल. एंड ये सवाल हर राइटर को फेस करना पड़ता है कि हम किस हद तक उनकी पब्लिक फिगर की प्राइवेट लाइफ में जाएं, चाहे कोई स्टोरी करें या किताब करें. और एक मैंने डिसीजन लिया था, क्योंकि किसी का मतलब देयर वाज, अपार्ट फ्रॉम द बायोग्राफिकल डिटेल्स, जो CV डिटेल्स हैं कि स्कूल, कॉलेज, उनके फादर मरे थे, उनको फिर पॉलिटिक्स में आए, लेकिन जो उनकी फैमिली के बारे में, चाहे उनकी डिवोर्स है, चाहे उनकी इक्वेशन इज़ ओके, या फिर राहुल गांधी ने शादी क्यों नहीं की, इस तरह का इशूज़, आई सेड कि दिस इज़ अ प्राइवेट लाइफ, दिस इज़ अ डिसीजन. एंड इन इंडिया मैंने देखा है कि हम वेस्ट की तरह नहीं है, दैट वी डोंट रियली गो बियॉन्ड अ सर्टन लाइन. एक लक्ष्मण रेखा, सॉर्ट ऑफ अनरिटन लक्ष्मण रेखा है, किसी ने कोई डिसीजन नहीं लिया है. लेकिन प्राइवेट लाइफ की किसी में, अगर हम इवन प्राइम मिनिस्टर मोदी के बारे में, नोबडी रियली गोज इनटू हिज वाइफ, कहते हैं वो बैड टेस्ट जर्नलिज्म है. एंड आई डू थिंक दैट कहीं वी हैव टू सेट आवर ओन स्टैंडर्ड्स रियली. तो इस तरफ से मैंने भी सोचा कि लेट मी नॉट गो ओवर देयर, बिकॉज द पर्सन दे आर, रशीद इज राइट, ऑफ कोर्स दैट इफेक्ट्स द पर्सन इज अ होल, बिकॉज जो प्राइवेट पब्लिक दोनों ही एक आदमी का सम टोटल होता है. लेकिन आई थॉट दैट विच लेट्स जस्ट गो इनटू द पब्लिक फिगर. आई डोंट नो, Sankarshan, would you also have the same?
You're right. I mean, there was, if you remember, there was this, there was a staking out in the US a fair few decades ago. I think there was this lady called Donna Rice. She was staked out, and the Democratic presidential candidate was brought down it was a controversial thing. It was a private meeting that he was having with this lady, but it brought down a whole campaign. America, there is this thing. They go after your private lives as well in a big way. We don't have that tradition. I remember Chandrasekhar ke zamane mein, there used to be a whole lot of stories about the way he conducts his personal life, but I don't recall a story about, and a whole lot of journalists used to know that, and these things he didn't make. I think a very overt attempt to hide these things. His life in the kind of life he lived in Bhonsi, for instance, who came in and who went out. But these things never got written in media. I think I would go, halfway. Aspects of a person's life that have an impact or can impact their public lives, their policy. Those things I think we need to examine. But aspects of personal life that don't really impinge on your public life or thing, I think there you are right. You don't need to go there. Again, examining personal lives, how are you so sure? Most of us keep, we don't even know the personal lives of our brothers and sisters. What really happens in their personal lives? So how are you so sure you're getting a politician's personal life right? There is always it's a shifting line, but that is where you need to take a judgment call.
Which is the writers.
Yeah.
This thing. Quickly, questions ke liye I'll open up, but I want to ask Rasheed one question. Rasheed, who is that one person that you want to write about, जिसके बारे में आपने नहीं लिखा अभी तक? Who is the most fascinating person?
I think he has written about everyone.
That's what I'm asking. Who
नहीं ये तो ठाकुर साहब हमारे उस्ताद रहे हैं, हमें थोड़ा अतिशयोक्ति से काम ले रहे हैं, लेकिन मुझे लगता है हर जनप्रतिनिधि का या जो बड़े लोग हैं, जैसे आपने चंद्रशेखर का जिक्र किया, इन ऐसे लोगों की शख्सियतों के बारे में बिल्कुल लिखना चाहिए और लिखना चाहिए. और हमारा एक तरीका रहा है पुराना कि हम एक तो जो लोग गुजर जाते हैं उनके बारे में लिखते हैं. जवाहरलाल नेहरू के बारे में आपको 50 किताबें मिलेंगी, महात्मा गांधी का, लेकिन एक जो आज के करंट के हम अगर बहुत से लोग पॉलिटिशियंस हैं, महत्वपूर्ण नेता हैं, महत्वपूर्ण पदों पे बैठे हुए हैं या विपक्ष में हैं, उनके बारे में कोई भी अच्छी किताबें जो हैं वो नहीं है. तो उस सेंस में प्रिया बहुत एक लंबी लिस्ट होगी. आपने जो कंटेंडर्स का वो किया है तो आपने सरसरी तौर से जिक्र किया है. आई थिंक ईच वन ऑफ देम डिजर्व्स अ बायोग्राफी. अगर हम बात करें हमारे जो यहाँ मुख्यमंत्री हैं अशोक गहलोत जी, उनके ऊपर भी कोई किताब, बड़ा उनका मैं समय नहीं लेना चाहूँगा क्योंकि क्वेश्चन आंसर का सेक्शन होने वाला है. बहुत ही एक ऐसी शख्सियत है जिनमें बड़े उन्होंने ज़िंदगी में उतार चढ़ाव देखे. जादूगर कहा जाता है, क्यों कहा जाता है, क्या है, बहुत सारी बातें सामने आएंगी.
ठीक है, हम रीराइटिंग हिस्ट्री के बारे में तो गए नहीं, लेकिन वो बाद में करेंगे. पर मैं पहले ऑडियंस से एक सवाल करना चाहती हूँ. आप किसके बारे में पढ़ना चाहते हैं? हु डू यू थिंक देयर नॉट इनफ बुक्स रिटन अबाउट, जिसके बारे में, और वन पॉलिटिकल पर्सन जिसके बारे में आप और पढ़ना चाहते हैं किताबें? मैं रशीद का रिसर्च कर रही हूँ. ऑडियंस से किसी के पास सजेशंस है?
No curiosity about politics.
Not politics.
It's a good thing.
Which is a good thing.
But I want to read about all.
No, I wanted to ask one question to Rasheed. If you read his books, I have always been fascinated. I've had a long work association with Rasheed. I don't know how he does it, but he has a talent for getting the anecdotes out of people. His books are full of, also his journalism. There was a time when he used to write, the Telegraph has something called the diary item, which is anonymous. So Mr. Rasheed Kidwai would fill up the entire diary item. He used to come back in the evening from the beat with the most juicy stories. Ye ho gaya, wo ho gaya. I still believe that his...
one book writers should look at, including all of us, is a person who has seen BJP and RSS in transition.
Yes.
Okay.
An insider's view, but a true to fact, a truthful view, as to how these two sister organizations have changed over the years. I think that would be a very interesting book. People are writing book on BJP, on RSS, but this transition of both the organizations.
वेंकैया जी के पास समय है.
हो सकते बिल्कुल अच्छा सुझाव है आपका.
Time out कर रहे हैं.
No questions. I think thank you all for this conversation. I think this is like we could have sat at a press club and have Rasheed tell us more anecdotes. But thank you.
He has the loveliest anecdotes.
You wanted to finish the anecdote?
He has I'm telling you, his books are laced with the lovely, and I don't know where he picks up from. I wrote an introduction to his biography of Mother of India. When I started reading the book, I said, oh my God, you know, so many things that I don't know, small details, what happens in that. I don't know, Rasheed, please, if you want to reveal it, reveal the secret of how you do it.
ये देखिए, मैंने एक हाउस ऑफ सिंधिया नाम की किताब लिखी, तो उससे पहले वो सिंधिया परिवार के तमाम सदस्य मुझसे मिले, लेकिन किताब जब छप के बाहर आई, उसके बाद से वो मुझे कोई नहीं मिला है.
सिंधिया नहीं मिले, चलिए. Thank you so much. आपने सुना, and thank you all for this conversation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to all the speakers. And now I invite M.A. Reninga to present the token.